Hi, Michael here for the second part of my short series of beginner's guides. Today, it's beginner's guides to bowls and bells. As in my last video about gongs, this is not a total all-encompassing video. I could spend hours talking about bowls and bells. There's so much to know about them. Especially once you get into bells. There are so many different types of bells out there. So I'm going to touch on the highlights, basic things that you should probably know, at least to get you started and get you going, and then you can investigate things on your own from there. First thing I need to say is these are my opinions, my ideas from working with these instruments for 50 plus years. You might disagree with things I say, and that's fine because we each have to find our own place. First, let's talk about crystal bowls. I don't own any crystal bowls. I don't play any crystal bowls. People ask me, why don't you have any? And it's just like, they're just not my thing. They don't really resonate with me. Metal, completely. Metal and we resonate together. Crystal bowls, not so much. I don't think crystal bowls are bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. They just personally don't do anything for me as far as playing them. I have worked with a lot of different crystal bowl players over the years, playing in duos and things like that. Trios, different groupings, and I've always gotten along with them. And I do not mind the sound of the crystal bowls. It's just, again, it's not me. It doesn't resonate. So let's get on to crystal bowls. Oh man, there's so much propaganda out there by people selling bowls and wanting to make you believe a lot of BS. Just as there is in gongs and metal singing bowls. Unfortunately, our industry of sound work has really become just totally inundated with a lot of false myths and outright lies. People who even know better will lie, especially, sad to say, some of the people selling instruments, they will gladly tell lies or untruths, falsehoods, however you want to describe them, in order to sell instruments. So crystal bowls, a very short history. No, they don't go back to antiquity or anything like that. They come out of the semiconductor industry. Computer chips, they basically were crystal silicon crucibles. And one day somebody banged on one and said, wow, that makes a nice note. What if we try some different sizes? I was like, oh, this sounds really good. And then they figured, well, let's try rubbing it around the rim, around the side. Oh, this sings just like a metal bowl. So it was an accidental discovery coming out of the computer chip industry. And some of the myths you will see, especially in advertisement, it talks about they're fused, they can have bowls fused with different metals like gold and platinum and silver and all this sort of stuff. Or they're coated in gemstones. This is coated in jade and this one's coated in rose turquoise and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's just a coating. It's no different than if you were to spray paint them. It's still just a plain old crystal bowl. It's glass, it's sand, it's quartz, it's silicon, however you want to describe it, melted at a high temperature and formed into a bowl. So when you're shopping for bowls, don't get caught up in all the baloney about all the things they do to them. Now, here's an important thing to know is people often listen to music with their eyes. Okay? People listen to music with their eyes. I mean, they see you have a rose quartz bowl, a nice, pink colored one, and then maybe you have amethyst, and you have a jade one, and it's green, and you have something that's grayish, and you have all these sort of coatings or finishes on them, and people go, ooh, that's beautiful, that's great, it must sound better. It's really not that much difference between the bowls. And just because you put a coating of some gemstone or with some metal over the outside of the bowl, it does not make the bowl more magical. It does not give it superpowers. It does not call the fairies in or anything like that. It's just aesthetics. It looks nice. Now, if you're really into all of the crystal gemstone stuff, then maybe for you, it does something like, ooh, I have my rose quartz bowl, and it has the power of the rose quartz. And it calls in these energies. That's up for you to believe. For me, I don't believe any of that. They all sound the same to me, maybe slight variations. But the most important thing about crystal bowls is finding ones that are in tune. And this is a big problem that people talk about all the time is to buy a G bowl, whether it's an A440 hertz tuning or A432 hertz tuning. They'll buy a G bowl and it'll be off. It won't be a G. It'll be 5 cents or 10 cents lower. So it'll be flat from the actual note, things like that. And companies sell those, especially the lesser companies, I guess you could say. They just sell bowls, and the tuning, you don't know what you get. So you could order a set of 5 or 7 bowls, and they might not sound good together. You might have one that's really out. It doesn't fit the set because the tuning is off that much. Otherwise, they will sell bowls and call them like perfect tuning or perfect pitch or something like that. And it's within supposedly, 1 to 5 cents sharp or flat of the actual note. I mean, this can work out. A lot depends on what you were doing. Now, if you were playing your crystal bowls, whatever tuning they're in, with other instruments in that tuning. So let's say your bowls are A440 and you are playing with other instruments, piano, guitar, flute, things like that. And your bowls are not in tune with each other, or not actually in tune with A equals 440. It could possibly sound bad with actual instruments that are perfectly in tune. Just something to think about. But don't get caught up in all the propaganda the companies put out there. They're melted bowls, they're melted sand, melted quartz, melted crystal, however you want to describe it. And it's formed into the shape of a bowl. But again, you have to watch out for the tunings. So if you're buying a set, or you're buying one to add to a set, I've seen plenty of things on Facebook where somebody gets one and then they go, oh, it doesn't fit in with the 5 bowls I already have. It's too flat, too sharp or something. So that's about it on crystal bowls. I'm not a big expert on them because, again, I don't play them. I don't own any of them. But I've been around them enough over the past 20 years or so and worked with enough people and seen enough complaints and comments on social media about them, especially about the tuning. All I can say is don't buy crystal bowls from Temu or some sort of place like that. Here we are, part 2, talking about metal bowls and metal bells. Something that I'm more of an expert at, something that I know about. Where to start? There's so many different places we could start. But let's start with the bowls. Let's talk about singing bowls. This is a typical singing bowl. It can be played various ways. This is what we would typically call a wand, used to make the bowl sing by going around the rim of the bowl. So let's give that a go here. Now it takes some skill to get the bowl singing. I've been to many stores where they sell bowls and I start playing them and people rush over, how did you get that to do that? And it's like, well, it takes a little skill, a little practice. And also not every singing bowl will sing. Some of them you could just grind all day on the rim and it's just not going to sing for you. That's the way it is. I like to hold it like this. I see some people playing like this, which I find extremely uncomfortable because my arm is up in the air and it's just uncomfortable, and it's also not very, it's not easy to keep contact with the rim this way. So if I do it this way, you notice my elbow's not up, it's down, much more comfortable, and it's an easy just rotation around. Even on some bowls, I can just rotate my hand and like a small one like this, and I don't have to use a lot of arm, or I can use my arm to get the bowl to sing. Again, some bowls sing much easier than others. Some bowls sing all types of notes. Different size wands will bring out different notes. Smaller ones tend to bring out higher notes. Larger in diameter ones, bigger ones will tend to bring out lower notes. Again, depending on the bowl. So this is a singing bowl, typical one. This is probably about 7 inches. I've got a bigger one here. This has the Buddha inside. Sometimes you find them with all these etchings on them. It doesn't make it any more special unless it becomes special to you. And when you're playing, you have to find the rhythm of the bowl. I've got a lot of chatter happening there, which is when it goes like that. So you want to try to keep an even pressure and find a speed where it's going to work. Or find the right wand. This wand might not be the best one for this bowl. In fact, I never play my singing bowls with a wand. I don't do that. So this is different for me to actually play them this way. In fact, I rarely ever play my bowls with a wand. I will play them with a mallet, something like this, which is a medium yarn wound marimba mallet. Tap the outside. I prefer to use them more as bells, and technically they can be called resting bells because they rest on a table or some surface. If you turn it over, it looks like a bell. Now you can buy some sets of bowls that are strung up like a bell, Chinese bowls. I actually have a set over here. Let me go grab it. Here are my hanging Chinese bells. These are crazy. You see them on eBay and other places, and people ask a fortune for these. I've seen a set of 4 like this. People are wanting $400, $500, $600 for it. I think I paid $65 for this set. And usually a set of 4, maybe a set of 7. But if you look at it, it's basically like a singing bowl strung up, but it's thinner. It's much thinner. I don't know any specific name for these other than hanging bells. If you know an actual name, put it in the comments below. Let me know. I'm always like to learn things like that. So as I said, I tend to play my bowls with a yarn-wound mallet or maybe a felt mallet. I could play them on the outside or play them on the inside. If I use something different, this is a medium rubber mallet, so it's going to have a little more attack. If you notice the difference there, it's brighter, there's more percussive attack, whereas the yarn wound got a lower tone and was a little mellower, softer. So I always play my singing bowls with mallets because I like that bell sound. Sort of a cousin of singing bowls, and often people get them confused. These are Japanese rin bowls. Now you will see these in Buddhist temples, and often they'll have a big one on maybe a pedestal or even on the floor. Sometimes they're like 18 inches in diameter, really big ones. And the monk will take a big leather-covered wand like this, and he'll go boom, and he'll strike it like 3 times at the beginning of a service. And the idea there is it's supposed to call your mind and help focus your mind and clear your mind. I like rin bowls a lot. I actually prefer them to singing bowls. I don't have that many singing bowls. I probably have 8 or 9. Again, I don't play them as bowls. I play them more as bells. So I prefer rin bowls because they have a more pure tone, not as many overtones as you will get from a singing bowl. So let's take a listen to this. Let's compare it to the singing bowl. And in there, I can hear a lot of different tones. There's a wah, 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 ah, ah, ah. A lot of different tones. Where here, it's mainly just boom, the main note. So I like rin bowls because they're more of a pure sounding bell. Now when I play smaller ones, I tend to use a medium rubber mallet because the small ones, they need a little more hardness, a little more percussiveness to make them ring out. Just to show you, here's a marimba mallet. And you can get a nice mellow sound, but I tend to like a little more. I like a little more of that brightness. So I tend to use a medium rubber mallet on smaller bowls and a medium yarn mallet on larger bowls. And you can hear they have a long-lasting ring. So those are Japanese rin bowls. You find them in temples. You also find these smaller ones in a home in a personal shrine called a butsudan, which is like a cabinet, and it opens up. Usually there's a statue of a Buddha. There might be a rin bowl, and then they might have relics or photos of their ancestors, things like that, and that's where maybe incense there, and that's where people will have a personal one in their home. Now, typically in a household, in a butsudan, or just on a shelf or something, they will have a small stand, usually wooden or some sort of a plastic, with a small cushion to put the bowl on, and then a leather covered mallet. Thus they are able to pray, meditate, whatever. Now you might notice there are no cushions under these bowls here. What I'm using is rubber shelf liner that you can buy at the hardware store. This usually comes in a 4 or 8 foot roll. You can get it in different widths, usually like 18 to 22 inches. I love using this because I put a mat down on my table here, and I put all my instruments on. The bowls will sing out, and if I put a bell or something down there, you're not going to hear it. It's not like if I'm putting, something on the wood part here. I can set things down quietly. Same thing with mallets. It's not like clanking on the wood. I can set my mallets down quietly. Rubber shelf liner. Usually like 20 bucks will get you 8 feet of it. I got some of it at Ace Hardware. I got some on Amazon. You can find it everywhere. So that's my tip of the day for all this. And it works great because I don't have to worry about having separate cushions for everything. And again, when I play a bell, I don't have to worry about it clanking or a mallet clanking because it's all soft and rubber and it insulates everything. So we've talked about bowls. Let's move on to bells. Bells have been a fascination of mine for 50 years or so. And if we think about bells, and we can think of the bowls as bells, as I said, as resting bells, bells have been used throughout history since people started forging bronze or iron. Bells have been used to specifically call people. If you think of like church bells or temple bells, things like that, or during a service, they'll ring a bell or hit a bowl to bring your attention to a specific part of the service, things like that, or used for warnings. You think of church bells. If a tornado was coming in the old days, or a fire or some emergency, they would just ring those church bells. Everybody was like, something's going on, let's all meet at the church, see what's happening. So bells have been used for communication. I've just been fascinated by them, especially because each culture has its own type of bell, and there are so many different ones out there. Like I said, we could be here all day really talking about bells, and I could dig out all the different bells I have, but I just want to kind of give you a overview of different bells that I have and use. So let's just start out with strings of bells. If you think of India, you have to think about bells. India is such a culture of brass and bronze making, and bells. Bells, bells, bells. How many bells have you ever seen that say made in India on them? I mean, they're everywhere. So you can do something like get some small bells, either buy them on a string or string them up yourself. And they're nice because you can hang them up and then just, wave your hand or your mallet even. So let's look at a couple of bells here that are common. So these are more your cast bells, and the same here. And then we have your basic sheet metal bells. More of the type of bells you would find on animals. Now it's interesting, if you are of the same age that I am, you will remember back in the day, import stores like Pier 1 or World Market used to sell a lot of bells and rattles and things. And all the percussionists would haunt those stores because we could buy, and this is where I got these two. I bought them at a Pier 1 probably 50 years ago. And we used to haunt stores like that because you could get all these great sounds. I probably paid $3 for this back in the day. Same here. And now you'll find them, something like this will run you $30 or who knows. But that was the heyday of bells. Pier 1 imports, and then later on World Market. Now I don't even know if Pier 1 is still around. And World Market has just become wine and food and furniture. And it's very rare to go there and find any sort of instruments. But I used to buy a lot of African and Indian and sometimes Asian instruments at World Market. It was a great place. So you can get those kind of bells on a string. Here's some others. These are little clamshell bells. And these are a typical Tibetan style bell, which people will call them. And these will come in different sizes. You can get them in this a little smaller than this, which hardly make any sound. And you can get, I've seen them up to like 2 inches or so, but a clamshell, because it looks like a clamshell. Bells, bells, bells. One of my favorite ones I have, but I don't use very often because it is so loud. These are Korean shaman bells. I'll play it down here just so they're not that close to the mic. These are really beautiful bells, and if you want to ward away some evil spirits of that, these guys will do it. And you can find a lot of this stuff on eBay. Bells and bells and bells. They've got all types there. Let's go to India still, where they make a lot of brass and bronze things. These are elephant bells. Commonly called that because if you see elephants with a big blanket on them and all the stuff that these will often be attached to the blankets. So when the elephant is walking, they're making a nice sound, you know, especially for festivals, parades, and things like that. You can tell them because they have these metal tines, which give them generally a softer, more gentle sound. Here's one with a handle. And you find a lot of small ones, but you can also find very big ones. Sometimes they're hard to find. Sometimes you can find them. I know Steve Weiss Music and I think Gongs Unlimited have sold sets of 5 different size elephant bells when they have them. So it's a place you can look. But those are elephant bells. Other kinds of bells are just your common hand bells. And that here's a Chinese bell, which would be hung up. Here is a Japanese one. This is a kokoriko. It's a Buddhist bell. Nice piercing sound. It's very thick. Let's talk about the age of everything, okay? Let's go back to bowls and just bronze instruments in general. There's a lot of BS out there about ancient bowls and all this stuff, you know. This is a 3,000-year-old bowl that was used in Atlantis and Mu and stuff like that. I really don't think so. Now, there are some very old bowls that maybe some monks have passed down through lineages and, you know, they've lasted. But basically, a singing bowl was a food bowl, either to store food like grain or things in it, or they would actually use them to, you know, to eat out of, whatever. But a storage bowl. And it was only in the early 1970s when 2 people, Henning and Wolf, were in Tibet and discovered Tibetan bells and tingshas and bowls, which were just bronze bowls that they purchased at the market. And they said, wow, these make a great sound if we bang on them. And they recorded an album called Tibetan Bells, which was kind of the start of New Age music and bell music and that, and this whole Tibetan thing. And later on, a few years later, somebody coined the term singing bowl because they thought the bowls had this nice singing sound. But they have not been used for hundreds, thousands, millions of years for healing and for all that sort of stuff. Never food bowls, basically. Bronze culture, they made things out of bronze. High up in the mountains, they don't have a lot of trees. If you come to like the Americas and you go back through history, or Europe, people had wooden bowls. They had wooden spoons. They had wooden utensils. Why? Because we had trees everywhere. So people tend to use what is available. You go high up in the Himalayas and there aren't trees, but there's raw metals. So people made things out of metal. You go to Africa, a lot of things are made out of iron. So you have to look at sort of an overall historical aspect of what was happening in each culture back through time. So no, the singing bowls, or even the rin bowls, they don't go back to antiquity and used for healing and all this sort of stuff. That's just stories that were made up after the early 70s when people discovered these made nice sounds and they could sell them. So don't get caught up in that. Okay, let's move on to some more bells. Let's go to Tibet. Again, most of the bronze stuff is generally made in Nepal or India because that's where the metalworking castes were. And that's where all this stuff was made. Sometimes you will find some bells too that are made in Pakistan, but they don't make bells in Tibet. But again, this whole idea of Tibetan bells, the recording came out, and then they had 5 in the whole series of Tibetan bells, like 1, 2, and 3, and then another one. And other people started making recordings and doing things with these instruments, and it all got to be known as Tibetan. So that's sort of stuck, but it's not historically accurate. Now, this type of a bell is called a drilbu, or in Sanskrit, it's a ghanta. And it's got a clapper in it. It has auspicious symbols around it. It makes a really nice sound. And these are generally used in Buddhist temples for various services and ceremonies, and call attention to things and to also keep time. They're often played along with the double-headed drum that is spun. It has the little beads on a string, and you can go and spin it. So these are often played in combination. But anyway, it's a great sounding bell. And as you can see, when I put it down on the rubber shelf mat, it's silent and it muffles the bell. Now these are also known as singing bells because you can take a wand and you can sing the bell. Now, traditionally, this is the way people will do it. Hold it like this and play it this way. I find 2 things about that I don't like. One, again, my arm is at an uncomfortable position, especially to hold it for any length of time. And there's always, if you wiggle too much, you could also have the clapper strike the bell. And I just find this very uncomfortable to play it this way. But you will see, traditionally, the bell is sung that way. What I did, I have another set of these. I took the clappers out so that I can hold it this way. And by doing it this way, I don't have my arm up in the air, my elbow up. I have it down once again. I'm all about efficiency of motion and using less energy to play my instruments. So I will play them this way. And for me, when I want a singing type of sound, I will use the drobu bell, not the singing bowls. I prefer the bowls as bells, resting bells, but I do like to sing these. And here's a smaller one. And these are generally easy to get to sing. So I like to play the drobu holding it this way with a mallet, like a medium rubber mallet. Just my personal preference for playing it. Other bells we have here. I have this beautiful string of bells. These are from UFIP in Italy. I've got 3 larger ones in the set here. Just a nice pure bell tone. Other kinds of bells, I'm sure you've all seen something like this before. Commonly known as a Burma bell. It's a pagoda-shaped bell. People say it's either like the roof of a pagoda, or if you think of the Buddha sitting in a lotus position and these are his knees. But these are generally found in temples, and they're named Burma bells because they were produced in Burma, which is the area of like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and that. And you generally hit them on the end here, which is usually thicker than the middle. You can hit them in the middle. Or with something else, like a rubber mallet. Or a hard plastic mallet. I like to use these mallets that I put together. This is a orchestral chime mallet, and I have a felt end for the bigger bells. But the nice thing about these is you can get them to spin, and you get that sort of Doppler effect, that Doppler wobbling sound. And these come in all sizes. Some of them will be engraved with like elephants and the Buddha and things. That's why I like to wind these up and then play them. So that's a Burma bell, or also known as a kaisi. There's a bunch of different spellings of that. Made of bronze. Here I have an aluminum version made by Steve Huback. A softer, darker tone. And he does make these in aluminum and brass, which will give you a little brighter tone. Other bells, let's look at, everybody knows these Ting Sha. Played handheld like this, holding one vertical, one horizontal, and then striking the edge. Not played in this helter-skelter fashion of trying to get them to connect, although you can hang them like this and play them with mallets. Some of my favorite bells are copper-clad bells from India. These are sheet metal. I've bought them over the years and put them together in a set. I have some larger ones. I mean, these will come, you can find the very small ones, about like an inch, that hardly make any sound. They're more decorative. Up to bigger ones. This is one of the bigger ones here. And here's a real big one. You can often find these in gift shops that are atrociously priced. I find them in gift shops, flower shops. You can find them in fair trade stores. Places like 10,000 Villages and similar might have some in stock. Otherwise, you can get those from Steve Weiss Music and other dealers out there. So that's basically just kind of a quick look at bells. Like I said, we could spend hours and hours going over all the nuances and intricacies of all of these and other bells that I do own. If you are looking for more information on bells, there's this great book called Bells by Jan Whitehead. Jan, Jan Whitehead. And this is really a great book, a lot of good historical information on bells all around the world and in all sorts of different cultures. Okay, thanks for coming to this episode. This is just an overview of a lot of the instruments I use in a session and things that you might find that you are attracted to and want to use in your sessions, and also things that you can find in a lot of different places. Comments, questions down below. I'm always glad to read them and answer things, especially if you have a question on something. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one when we talk about other types of instruments that people use on their sessions. Bye now.